But for now, the Home Office in trouble again. I don't think a week goes by, quite frankly, when Suella Braverman isn't in trouble for something. But today, it's her idea to get tents, marquees, whatever you want to call them. It's all about trying to, I would say, contingency plan, because the weather, I mean, it's supposed to be summer, isn't it? We're supposed to have nice weather. I'm sure it's coming, but the nicer the weather, the more people inclined to cross. So she's trying to be proactive, trying to be front-footed, rather than have to buy lots of last-minute hotel rooms. She's got a brainwave of basically these marquees that will house up to 2,000 people. These will be potentially on military bases. What do you make to them? Paul Embry, I shall start with you.
I don't object to them ideologically. I think the key thing is, look, you know, the people coming over, whatever we might think about the collapse of a proper immigration system, I mean, these people are human beings. They need to be treated as human beings. We need to make sure that they are housed in conditions that are safe, that are secure, where they've got the basic amenities that are necessary. Now, whether that's a hotel, I don't have a particular issue with that. Whether it's a...
What, you don't have an issue with people being in hotels?
No, I don't, because for me, Michelle...
Four-star hotels? You think that's fine?
Because for me, that's never been the main issue here. And I think the problem is that when people get into the debate about, oh, well, we're putting them up in hotels, for me, that's a distraction from the central issue. Look, when people come here, whether they come here legally or not, they're human beings once they arrive, and they need to be housed in secure and safe accommodation. You know, we can't just leave people homeless. Well, we do leave people...
I was just about to say, we do.
We do, and we should be ashamed of it, but we shouldn't leave people homeless. So for me, whether or not it's a hotel, you know, whether it's a Premier Inn or whether it's a 4- or 5-star hotel, whatever, or whether it's a marquee which is decent and safe and secure and has the basic amenities, for me it's not the issue. The issue is, and I don't think, by the way, that the individual migrants should be targeted. I'm not in favour of demonstrations outside of migrant hostels and stuff like that. For me, the issue is how we got to a situation where our immigration system, frankly, has collapsed, where we cannot control our borders. Despite the many promises from government that they will address the situation, they haven't. And nobody seems to have any ideas in terms of how to address that. That for everybody in the country, and there are millions who have got issues over, you know, the poor regulation of our immigration system, that should be where the focus should lie, rather than, I think, debates about hotels and stuff.
Yeah, I've got to say, I've got a problem with hotels being used in this way. You say, oh, 4- or 5-star hotels, whatever. I think it's an absolute scandal. I think it's a disgrace that £7 million or thereabouts a day is spent on hotels. This whole situation about the marquees, if this was going to be your idea, then why wasn't it implemented quite some time ago to save those wasting of money in the hotels in the first place? But anyway, Ceri, what do you make to it all?
Well, I do think it's... Paul's got an important point, that it's immigration's become an unhealthy obsession. The problem with the obsession is that not only does it have anti-human consequences, but it doesn't deal with the problem. And the problem is people risking their necks getting on small boats. And I think that's an absolute human disaster and a tragedy.
But it's also a human choice, though, isn't it?
Yeah, it's willful. But the thing is, we haven't thought about how to stop that. And whether... I have no problem with tents. You know, I think it's ridiculous that people have come out and said this is concentration camps and all the rest of it. That's nonsense. I think being in a tent can be great. So I think that's rubbish. But we aren't dealing with it, and I think we have to deal with it in a much more rational way. Instead of millions on hotels, we could be employing loads of graduates to deal with the 75,000 who've been waiting nearly 3 years to get processed. They're being given vouchers and money and accommodation, and it's not being dealt with. That's scandalous. We're not providing legal routes, which we could then say, go through the legal process. These people are able to secure money to pay people with boats, so go through the legal routes like friends of mine have from Ghana and from Kenya and from elsewhere, and they'll do it legally. If you get turned down, that's it. You're not going to get anything. It's a criminal offence.
What do you mean when you say there's an unhealthy obsession with immigration? What do you mean?
Well, it's, you know, if every day, you know, whether it's the tents and yesterday it's the barges and another day it's something else, you know, the government failing to fix this means they are dumping people in all sorts of places unhealthily, you know, a whole load of men on a military base in a small village.
I thought you meant it's unhealthy to discuss this issue. I thought that's what you meant.
No, I think we should discuss this issue, but I think we should discuss proper solutions. actually. And also, I would say I don't see immigrants as a big problem in Britain. I think our failure to deal with people drowning is a big problem.
Would you be in favour of open borders, though, Ceri?
Yeah, I've always supported open borders.
Well, hang on, but I need to just rewind. Where do I even begin? Right, first and foremost, you just said our failure to deal with people drowning. What are you talking about?
People getting on small boats and risking their neck or climbing under lorries.
But that's not our responsibility, is it? If a grown adult decides to do that.
Yeah, but well, the trouble is it does become our responsibility and we need to prevent that happening. Don't we want to do that? Or would we rather have to spend loads of money and create havoc in small villages with no resources?
And then, did you just say to Paul that you're in favour of open borders?
I've always supported open borders because I've always thought that the arguments about as open as possible, I suppose, would be how I'd put it, according to people's democratic wish. You know, I wouldn't be for forcing it on anyone. So I didn't like, you know, the attempt to open up Europe and force people right to come here on working class people as though they needed a lesson in anti-racism, because that was the tenor of that debate at the time. But I've never thought population numbers, were the big problem in Britain.
I think it is the problem, though, because I think when you speak to most mainstream people in this country, I think the view of ordinary people, by and large, is that they are pro-immigration. They understand the benefits of immigration. They don't think, you know, we want to shut the gates, no one should be allowed in. But at the same time, people believe that the system has got to be regulated properly and the system has got to be managed properly and the numbers have got to be modest. And if they see that that system is being managed properly and the numbers are modest, I think people are much more inclined to say, yeah, this is OK, we can absorb this, we're comfortable with this, we can live with this. I think what's happened in this country is about 25 years ago under the Blair government, where he adopted a very liberal immigration policy. And then we had EU accession in 2004 with the Eastern European countries. And all of a sudden, we did see a very, very rapid and large-scale increase in the numbers. And we had no means of integrating these people. We had no idea about how to integrate these people. We had no proper dispersal policy. And generally what happened, Ceri, is working-class areas were told, OK, you're going to deal with this. Because invariably what happens is when poorer immigrants come, they will invariably go to working-class areas. And working-class areas that were already hard-pressed. And people were told, look, suck this up, you can deal with this. And you know what, you shouldn't really complain because it will enrich you in an economic sense, it will enrich you in a cultural sense.
Paul, I don't disagree with you.
And people actually
I don't disagree with you on these points. You're missing the point.
Didn't feel enriched at all.
The point about limits, is not about, you know, did people want all these people to come over? Were they put upon by Blair? They were, in order to educate them as, you know, oh, you've got all these working class bigoted people, let's just let immigrants come in and they can suck it up. The problem I've always felt with is that the argument about too many people in Britain, too many people in the world, the overpopulation idea means that instead of fighting to grow the cake and create more so that we could all have more, you limit it and you very easily target the other.
How do you grow an island?
I don't mean grow a landmass, Michelle. I mean grow the resources that we've got.
Yes, but this country is a certain amount of size, full stop. And it's a certain amounts of density with the population as it stands at the moment. We've got a certain amount of infrastructure as it stands at the moment. So what?
But we haven't got massive population growth, immigration or no immigration. Actually, we've got a falling birth rate. And there wasn't immigrants that caused the lack of housing or immigrants that caused crappy education, or immigrants that put people out of jobs, and that's the limits argument.
But the truth,
too many people
the truth is, though, Ceri, you're right. It would be absurd for someone to say that an immigrant has put me out of a job, or you know.
Hang on, why would that be absurd? Well, because when the EU expanded to the Eastern Bloc and a lot of Polish people came in, for example, there would be a lot of British plumbers that were out of business because they were undercharged. Well, not undercharged, but there were cheaper rates by the Polish plumbers.
I get that. What I'm saying is. What I'm saying is, Michelle, it would be unfair to target an individual immigrant and to say that you are responsible for putting me out of a job. I think that is the completely wrong way to go about it. I think that the people responsible, and you know, of course we can say, well, OK, we're not going to blame immigrants personally for the fact that wages are under pressure or housing's under pressure, etc. But there can't be any serious doubt, surely, that if you have a very liberal immigration policy, as we've had in this country for at least the last 20 years, and we haven't invested properly in infrastructure, and we haven't, you know, done all of the things that are necessary in terms of improving and increasing the housing supply to accommodate that, then of course it is going to impact. And it doesn't mean the individual personal immigrants are responsible, but it does mean that the government is responsible. You know, the truth is, if with wages, for example, if you have what Marx called a reserve army of labour, which is waiting there to fill your space, then invariably employers are going to think, well, this gives me the opportunity to hold down wages, because if that person doesn't want to do it for this wage, then I've got people coming in who will be prepared to do it for that wage. So employers, for example, will always be under less pressure to deliver better wages the larger the labour supply that is available to them.
And there will be people at home shouting at the tellies. I can hear you all the way from my seat here, and you'll be shouting about population growth when people say, well, it's not expanded the population. Of course, we had net migration of, I think, 606,000 people in the last year alone. Anyway, you tell me what you make to that situation and what is the solution, because we do go around in circles. We seem to be chipping away at the edges when it comes to harebrained schemes here, there and everywhere. But, you know, until you stop people making that journey, as Ceri says, ultimately this problem is going absolutely nowhere.